Okay, so the first thing you were asked to do was to turn the percent into a fraction. And of course, fractions need to be written in simplest form. So the first one that you have is 32% written as fraction. So we start with 32 over 100. And then we see that is equal to 32%. Because percent is per 100. Now to simplify, I want to divide both numbers by the same thing. Well, I tried 8, but 8 will not go into 100. So then I moved down to 4. 32 is divisible by 4, and it's 8. Oh, let me get my line straight. Oh, come back. There we go. Maybe, maybe not. Alright, once it gets set up, we'll say that 100 divided by 4 gives us a 25. So then we're looking at the fraction 8 over 25. Alright, let's try this again. 32 over 100, both divided by 4, gives me 8 over 25 as my fraction form of 32%. Our next one is 99%. We're going to start with 99% over 100. Then I do a little bit of thinking, and there's nothing that 99 or 100 can both be divided by. 15%, if I start as 15 over 100, I see that they're both divisible by 5. 15 divided by 5 gives me 3, and 100 divided by 5 gives me 20. 17% is going to be 17 over 100, not 20. Because 17 is a prime number, there's nothing it can be divided by besides itself and 1. So the final fraction form of 17% is 17 over 100. So here are your 4 answers. Sorry, the circles are a little bit off. You can check yourself to see what you did. If you were off a little bit, if you didn't simplify, if you didn't divide right. That's going to be a big problem. So the next part we have was turning the fraction into a percent. Now these are really easy, especially the 4 that you have, because the shortest way to do this is to turn your denominator into 100. So if I can do that, then it's really super easy. 5 times 20 equals 100. And whatever I do to the bottom, I do to the top. So that gives me a 40 in the numerator, 100 as the denominator, and a 40% overall. I can do the same idea with 13 over 20, multiply them both by 5, because that will give me a 100 in the denominator. And then I have to do a little bit of math. 13 times 5 gives me, drop a 5, carry a 1, 65. 65 over 100 gives me a final percent of, let me get it down here, over 100, 65%, 65 per 100. This one's easy because it's already 100 in the denominator. 29 over 100 gives me just 29%. 50 as a denominator is also very easy because I know that 50 times 2 makes 100. So 41 times 2 gives me 82 over 100 and 82%. Alright, finding the percent of a number. The most important thing to remember is what certain words mean in math. So with these 3 problems, we have the word of. Of is going to be the same as your multiplication. So you can use a times symbol, the X, sometimes, or we can use a dot for multiplication. Sorry, ran out of room. So if we do this for these problems, turn of to multiplication, there's also one other thing we have to do, and that's turn 40% or each of our percents into a decimal. So 40% as a decimal is 0.40, and I just times that by the given number of 5, and I get a final answer of 2. Same thing with 50% of 22, 0.50, or just 0.5 is fine, times 22 is the same as doing 22 divided by 2, because 50% of a number is just finding half of it. So that's easy. Half of 22 is 11. And 25% of 60, that's 0.25 times 60. When I do the little bit of multiplication, there is a 0 there. I get 15 as my final answer. Okay, percent of word problems. These are the ones where you had to pay attention to is and of. And whatever was missing was set up as the variable. So the number that's missing is our x. Is going to be our equal sign. I will turn 91% into a decimal, 0.91. And then of is times and times 200. So a little neater, that's going to look like x equals 0.91 times 200. X equals 0.91 times 200. This is easy, just some multiplication on your calculator. You get 182 as your answer. The next problem is similar. So I have x equals, this time it's 0.05 times 80. I get 4. A shortcut for that is to find 10% of 80, which is 8, and divide that by 2. Alright, this one's a little bit different. 26 is 40% of what number? So it's going to be 26 equals 0.40 times x. I'm going to divide both sides by 0.40. So the math that I have, and I will do on the calculator, is 26 divided by 0.4. Gives me a 65. Same type of thing. This one's just 35 equals 0.5, 50% of times what number? So this time I'm going to divide 35 by 0.5, and it gives me a final answer of 70. So basically 35 times 2 is what number? 70. 50% is either the same as dividing a number by 2 or multiplying a number by 2, depending on what direction you are going. Now these last two are the ones that you should be the most familiar with. This is like finding a test grade. So what percent of 90 is 15? X times 90 equals 15. Dividing both sides by 90, and I get a decimal, 0.16 with the 6 repeating. If I've moved my decimal over 2 places and round, I get an answer of 16.7%. X times 50, what percent of 50 equals 45? Oh, that's not going to work. Ran out of room. So, let me get the division over here. Dividing with a division symbol or fraction bar, all the same. 45 divided by 50 gives me an answer of 0.9, which I turn into a percent by multiplying by 100, and that gives me 90%. Applying percents to a word problem. This problem says your annual income is $24,000. Last year, you spent 22% of your annual income for rent. How much did you spend for rent? So think about what the question is asking you. 22% of what? Notice that 22% in there and the $24,000. So we're going to look to see how we set it up. 22% of your annual income. Remember, that word of is multiplication. So I'm going to start with 22% of my annual income. in words, annual income. So that's 22% times, because that's of, and my annual income was $24,000. Excuse me. So percent to decimal is 0.22 times 24,000. Gives me $5,280. Oops, that didn't work for the comma. Oh, got rid of the zero. So 0.22 times 24,000 is going to give me 22% of my income, which is $5,280. Now, I wasn't going to go over these too much because the steps for exactly what to do are in your study guide. But the first thing to do when finding a new price after a discount is applied is you have to find 20% of the original price. Well, there's that word of again. And I know I can't do math with percents, so I turn 20% into a decimal. 0.20 times 15 is $3. So I'm going to subtract 15 minus 3. My new price is $12. Same thing to begin with for sales tax. I'm going to find 6% of 200, so multiply those two, and I get 12. Now, why am I adding 12 to 200 but subtracting 3 from 15? Well, it's easy. It's those words discount and sales tax. Discount is an amount that you are taking off, an amount that you are saving. If it's an employee discount, maybe you have a coupon, who knows why, but you're going to be saving $3 on that item. So discount is subtraction. Sales tax is the opposite. Sales tax is addition. It's an amount added to the price. So you have to know what you spend in order to figure that out. Percent of change. Are you ready? It's this easy. Subtract and divide. If you subtract these two numbers, 90 minus 54, we get 36. Now, the number I put in the denominator is the original. Hey, it's listed for you. I do some division and I get 0.4. Well, I times by 100 or move the decimal 2 places, and that's 40%. Subtract again. 144 minus 120 is 24 over 120, because that's the original. I get 20% as my change. 23 minus 20 gives me 3. Divided by 20, I get 0.15, and that's going to be equal to 15%. So not a whole lot of change there. Subtract again, and I get 19. Original number was 152. This one's a little different. I get 0.125. I still only move the decimal 2 places, so my final percent change is 12.5%. Makes that pretty easy. Alright, using a scale to figure out distances either on the scale, like on a map, or in real life. A lot of you made this one 10 times harder than it should have been, or you turned it into a multiple choice question, and it was not multiple choice. So what I'm going to start with is the ratio that I've highlighted for you. 1 centimeter to 8 kilometers. So it's 1 centimeter over 8 kilometers. Well, now I just want to figure out how many centimeters it's going to be for 16. So basically, it's 8 times what equals 16. In this case, it's 2. So 1 times 2 in the numerator gives me 2 centimeters total. I do the same thing for each of these. Basically, figure out what 8 times what number multiplied by 8 will give me the kilometers that I'm given in order to find the centimeters. So we have 10 centimeters, 22 centimeters, and then half, 1/2 a centimeter would be the distances on the map for the real life distances that we were given. So our ratio 1/8 was the key for these problems. Alright, solving proportions, I chose to do cross multiplication. It was super easy to punch in the calculator. So you can see the two numbers I grouped together are the ones that we multiply. 15 times 162. Then for each one of these, I divided by the number that's circled by itself. So 300 times 46 divided by 69. Once again, I multiply those two numbers and divide by 1.6. Z equals 210. Multiply 5 times 27. Oh, oops, a little off there, that's okay. And divide by 45 gives me a final answer of A equal to 3. 10 times 21 is 210. Divided by 42 gives me an answer of 5. 27 times 15 divided by 45, Z is equal to 9. Alright, unit rates, unit rates, unit. You have to have units. So, these are very simple. The number that you're dividing by is given to you. Notice how the denominator in the first problem is 12. So I'm dividing by 12. The denominator in the middle problem is 22, so I divide them both by 22. The denominator in the very last problem on the top is 5, so I'm dividing everything by 5 in that one. So after I do my division using my calculator, I just get my answer. Don't know where these lines came from, but I think they'll go away. My final answer is 15.5 rotations per or over 1 minute. Next, I have 9.5 kilometers over 1 hour. $316.55 per day, so per 1 day. And each one of those I gave you sort of a different way to write that answer that would be acceptable. So 186 words per 3 minutes gives me how many words per 1 minute? Divide everything by 3 and I get 62 words per 1 minute. And per and over are kind of the same thing. 85 meters per 5 seconds gives me 17 meters in 1 second. That's pretty darn quick. 28 wins in 4 seasons only gives me about 7 wins per 1 season. So the biggest thing with these is to look for the denominator and units, units, units. I cannot say it enough. If you're finding a unit rate, your answer better have units. Alright, this could not be any easier. I think I've said that a whole bunch, but this truly could not be any easier. The similarity statement solves the question and all of whatever you're trying to find for you. You don't even need the picture, but we have the picture so we can use it. The first thing we're going to find are the corresponding angles. Corresponding angles. So notice how A and D both come first. Well, if I kind of turned DEF a little bit, D would match up with A. So angle A and angle D are corresponding angles. If we keep going in the way that the triangles are named, angle B and angle E are corresponding angles. So if you kind of imagine one of the triangles turn, you can figure it out that way, because they have to be in the same relative position. Or you can see where they lie in the similarity statement. Like C and F, both are the last letters written in the names of our triangles, and they are also corresponding angles. And we talked about using the similarity statement to help you. For corresponding sides, it's a little bit different because we name a side with 2 letters. So let me get these out of here so we can see the triangle names again. If I start with side AB and the triangle on the left, AB, DE is going to be that corresponding side. And I can kind of use the colors that I already have there. I'm going from red to purple, A to B, red to purple, D to E. Or both of them are the first 2 letters listed in each triangle name. Now I'm going to jump to the last 2 letters. So the first one I have BC, side BC, and side EF. I could also kind of use that I'm going from purple to blue this time. So if I go from purple to blue in the first triangle, I have to go purple to blue in the second. Now there's only one side left. That's going to be side AC. So the first letter and the last letter, AC, and side DF. Now, we kind of look out with that one because they're the only sides left. So, 6 points on that one. Alright, bonus question. Some of you attempted it, which was awesome. If you didn't, shame on you because you could have done it. I had faith. The easiest way to do it is to figure out and to read the question, figure out what you're trying to figure out. In this case, we're trying to figure out how many pages per day we can read. So if we know that we can read 104 pages in 4 days, how many days will it take to read 468 pages? So it's 104 over 4 equal to 468 over x, what I don't know. Do a little bit of cross multiplication. 4 times 468. Punch that in, get an answer, and then divide by 104 gives me 18 days as my answer. So 18 days to read 468 pages. Alright, now, this one's for those of you that attempted this problem. If you didn't even try it, then don't worry about paying attention, or you can try and figure it out. So I'm going to start by setting up my ratios, 18 feet and 4 feet. That's the length of the shadow, the building on top, the person on bottom. Then I'm going to put the height of the building over the height of the person. So I have building over person equal to building over person. But we can't do anything yet because I don't have all the same units. I need to turn 5 feet and 8 inches into just feet because I don't know what to do with this with 8 inches there. So I know 8 inches is 8 inches per 12 inches. So 8 inches out of 12 gives me a decimal for the number of feet that the inches are. So if I turn 5 feet and 8 inches into 5.67 feet, cross multiply, I get 102.06 equal to 4x. So I'm going to divide 102.06 by 4, and I get 25.5 feet. However, the answer said write your answer in feet and inches. So 25.5 feet would be equal to 25 feet and 6 inches.